Anybody want to do prayer? All right, I'll do it. Thank you, Jesus. Thanks for a wonderful day, and thank you for getting us all together to solve the town's problems, and wish us luck. Amen. Okay. Let's go to the draft of the 2027 budget.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council, our favorite time of year. So just a little bit, kind of how we're going to proceed through the draft budget. I'll briefly go over all the income. I'm not going to go line item by line item, but I'll go from subject to subject, such as, town council, finance department. I'll point out any highlights or big changes before we leave. Then if you got any specific questions on those, then we can address those and any other things, obviously, as you want to see in the budget. Just bring them up as we go through that. So pages 1 through 3. So page 1 and 2 is your general budget. We're still early. Most of these are good best guess estimate numbers for our revenue sources. We'll have more refined numbers as we get closer through the budget process, but it's in the range of what we expect to see as we work through. Our budget for general budget is $1,236,000 for the general. Then on the water budget is 300. Oh, excuse me. Let me get that corrected here. Sorry, I've got to flip the sides page. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. $3,400,926 for the general. Right, I have to flip my page. $1,236,000 for the water, and $329,000 for the sewer, for a total revenues expected of $4,965,926. Note, none of the budget includes any capital projects or programs or grants at this time. We'll do those as we get closer in September. We have some more refined numbers because it's generally what the money is. We budgeted in for what those capital are, unless you want to do a special capital. So as you look across your things, the proposed budget, obviously you can see 2027 is line item G. Line item H is the amended budget, which is this year's budget. And line item A is the year-to-date, so that lets you know where we're at money-wise as of 3/31. Then you can look back at the 25 and the 24 budgets just for reference purposes. So with that said, on the revenue side, is there any questions on the revenue side? We'll obviously get more detail when we get to expenses. Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move to our first one, which is page 1 of 10 of the expenses, where it says Town Council. So the proposed budget for Town Council is $122,020, slight reduction from this year's budget. Nothing of significant change in the Town Council. And any questions on that?
Yeah, Paul, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
For the repair and maintenance and subscriptions and memberships, like, what does that entail?
Sure. Let me get
Repair maintenance is number 7 and number 14.
Yeah, so repair and maintenance are things that need to be fixed specifically in this room, in the council chambers room for council stuff. So benches, sound system stuff, things that break, electric strikes, we air conditioner repairs, things along that line are included in there. We have 2 air conditioners back here. And I'm sorry, what's the next item, sir?
Number 14, subscriptions and memberships.
So that would be subscriptions like the Florida League of Cities. There's a mayor's subscription. When you're a mayor, there's a little special subscription for them belong to the Mayor Association with the Florida League of Cities. And it also would include our South Lake TV in there for our programming along that as well.
And then just on that last one, on number 14, for the 2024, it was 20 grand. I guess what made it that much, I guess?
I will have to look back. I don't recall, honestly.
Was that when we set up South Lake TV? Do we have to pay for the cameras to get installed?
Oh, that probably was it, yeah. Yeah, that's about the timeline. Oh, and the audio video. Yeah, we did the audio video and South Lake TV setup. So, thank you.
That's it for me on this, on the town council side.
Any other questions from council? Okay. All right. So next is the finance department. Current budget is 65,000. Proposed is 90. Excuse me, I'm on the wrong section. I'm sorry. Current budget is 433,558. Proposed is 440,000. I do want to point out one significant change I'd like to propose to council, and that'd be line item 38. Doing a little bit of research when I was doing some hiring in the past, we had some candidates that chose not to go any further in the interview process just due because we didn't offer any type of dependent coverage. If you'll look on, let me check on the page here. I believe it's on the last page I provided you. Caroline put together kind of just calling around to some of the local cities and kind of see what percentage they cover of a dependent. So that'd be family members, spouses, things along that line. And there's kind of a percentage breakdown. We weren't able to get enough information to get a percentage, but you can kind of speculate what that would be based off, family plans, 3,000 and employees paying 500, so they're covering about 75, 85%. So as you can tell from the different cities, it's ranging anywhere from 30% to up to 82% of coverage. So breaking that down into the water department, I did put for your consideration the 16,000 in general and 16,000 in the water to offer dependent coverage at 50% for the purpose of attracting and new employees and also maintaining our current ones as younger employees start moving in. I think it's going to be a bigger selling point for having family coverage, something else that we can offer, and also, of course, retaining ours. It's a weird one to budget for because right now, honestly, it may only affect 1 or 2 employees, but you have to budget as if a certain percentage, which I did, up to 65 to 75% would actually get it, even though they won't. So the remaining money just goes back into the general fund as savings. So right now, not a huge impact on the employees, but I did survey and talk with the employees why 1 or 2 would use it right now. Others said in the future, they would like to have that option if it was available. So I'd be glad to answer any questions on that and see if you are okay and agree on that. Just trying to be competitive with the market. So I'm in there at 50%, which is less than most of the market. And any other questions on finance?
I do. For line item 27.
And council, there are some
services.
rules there real quick if that helps you follow along.
For professional services, you have in 24, it was like 2,800, 25, actual was 4,500. And then we don't have anything obviously year to date for this year, but then now we have 20,000. So I guess what deems the increase?
Sure, yeah, I'll be glad. Most of that services is to assist the finance department, our finance director, and you'll start seeing some in the future deductions out of 2026. And we are now working with a CPA and an accounting firm just to assist in the upkeep with the book, especially with the grant-related stuff, but also just with audit compliance. For why we've had a near perfect audit every year, we get a continual comment that all small towns get, and it basically says because you're a small town, you don't employ a CPA, there's always things on the books that just have to be coded to a different direction. And we've had that comment now where the state has come back and said, what are you going to do to rectify this? And so that is strictly for services to help our finance director in making sure getting the books ready for the audit and making sure everything's in perfect condition for that. And yes, we do have them working with us now, so you'll start seeing that here in the future.
For line item 43, employee Christmas and performance bonus. For 24, we didn't have anything. 25, 13.5. Year to date, obviously 25.9. And then the proposed for 2027 is 33.5. So I guess it's a huge increase rapidly. So I guess.
So my recollection, we did have that in 24, and in 23, 24, we just had it in different budget areas within the budget, and I created just a dedicated line. I think what it was just mixed in with a lot of different areas. And I wanted the council to really see what was going on there, so we created that line just for transparency. And we have grown in employees, obviously, so that's a part of the increase. I think at one time we were at 9 employees and we're at 13. Does that sound right, guys? Am I going right? And last year, the council wanted to provide some extra bonuses in there for employees, so that's why you see the jump from the 25 to the 33.5. So that's completely, obviously, council discretion. If you'd like to continue that at that rate or any rate. Obviously, the staff looks forward to it, and they work hard. So I'm always glad that the council has done that in the past to support the staff.
And for line item 51, Capital Town Hall. For 25, we had 131,000. For 26, the budget was 25, and then now we're dropping to 5.
Yeah, so if I recall right, she has this up to correct me, I believe the budget in 26 was to repair and replace the 2 air conditioners that are in our ceiling. I think we budgeted that last year. Does that sound right, Mike? And then the 5,000 is really just a number for anything else council needs fixed in this particular old part of the building, or new improvements you would like to do into this part of the building.
That's it for this section.
Council members, anything else in finance? Okay. Next is legal services. And this is for our town attorney, and occasionally some other services get pulled into there as well, but 98% town attorney. And we budget in here, and we also have some money in professional services in the water department that we've really haven't used in the past, but it is budgeted there. So it brings up to about, we have 30,000 in the water side, so I'm proposing a total, I guess that would be 130, so maybe 130,000 for attorney services. I'm asking for the increase over time. We just have been backlogged on trying to get some stuff done. There's some stuff that's been on the board for 3 or 4 years, and Anita's willing to set some more time aside from us from her other duties to help us get caught up on those. And then I have one other thing I want to discuss beyond that, but generally just for additional services I'm hoping to have rendered. The other item, I just want to real talk with council. So our town attorney's been with us since 2007, and I think we're very fortunate to have a great attorney who cares about the town and has done really a great job. Her consultant rate is $275 an hour, so the consultant has to do dealing with special development stuff, things along that line that takes a little bit of extra work and time. Then the general counsel rate that we have per hour is $150 an hour. Sorry, Anita, didn't know we're going to have this conversation. But our town attorney's been at this rate since 2007, and we have not adjusted this rate since 2007. Did a quick little kind of comparison of some other areas, towns, and cost. Pull that up here real quick. For the area, and some towns have recently went out for some RFPs. So most towns have their legal counsel budget anywhere from about 110,000 on up to 385,000. Howie and the Hills just recently did an RFP and went with the new attorney firm. I think Gary Robertson. I think that made the name. One of those. Okay. And I was able to get their rates, just an example to see where the market is, and just because it's a recent, so their paralegal is at $145 an hour. Our town attorney's at $150 an hour. Their head attorneys in the $380 hour range, and $280 or so for an associate attorney. So I think it's long overdue to consider adjusting Nita up in the ballpark, and just want the town to consider somewhere between 200 and 225 from a budget purpose standpoint. And I think our town attorney does a great job, and her wealth of knowledge and background's what's really nice is when we have a question, versus going out and getting another attorney you look at, they got a question, they may spend an hour or two researching where it is, and Nita knows right to go with it within 5 minutes, like, oh yeah, I remember doing this 10 years ago, and boom, we're there. But thoughts and considerations on that?
I have a question. When does Anita's contract expire?
It doesn't until
This
you
is
guys
auto-renew?
terminate it. Yep. It's ongoing.
When does it supposed to auto-renew then?
I think I'll have to look at it. My guess is it's probably every year, just renews, or just it's a continual.
It continues until the council takes action otherwise. So I serve at the pleasure of the council, and if council wants to remove me, then you have that option at any time.
Does this also apply for like other contracts that we have with other contractors, or is it just specifically to Anita?
We would have to pull the other contracts. You have other consultants. I don't recall how Parks Consulting's is configured, and we'd have to pull the other contracts that you might have.
Okay. And let's say if the, I don't know, town gets slapped with a lawsuit of some sort, does that, I guess, impact this budget itself, or would the town insurance kick in, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on the type of lawsuit and related to it is. Sometimes actions by council members, for instance, would not be covered if they're out of their scope of authority and council chooses to cover those. Sometimes liability actions could possibly, but generally our insurance would kick in with our $2,500 deductible. And with the Florida League of Cities, they're really aggressive in defending us with usually some of the top attorneys. The ones that we've had, it's been pretty impressive, the work they've done. So yeah. However, even anytime there's any action, Anita is involved in that. So yes, you will have town attorney time because she's working, helping representing the town and providing the information they need to defend the town.
Mm-hmm. And then the way that you said now is it's going to be a 65 to 70% increase from 25 to the new budget of 27, which you said it was a split of 95, and then the other 30 grand or something like that was going to
It is
go
on the water side.
on the water side.
Yeah.
That's all I got for that.
Any other questions on that?
How soon do you need an answer on direction for that?
I mean, honestly, looking at the wage and rates, and right now Anita's under budget, I would like to bring an amendment to council sooner than later this budget year, if you're okay with that, at least on the salary portion of it, if you guys are okay with that.
I would suggest for us to go through the budget first and then maybe address all those, amendments or further direction for Paul at the end.
It's too tough to do it that way. I'd rather do them right way, like we're doing them. Approach each one single as we go down the line.
All right, so I'm going to preface, I guess, most of this budget and the rest of the budget meetings for the year. I'm taking a conservative approach to these finances. That means looking at every single contract that the town has with any contractor and possibly negotiating, newer rates, even if we get new bids. So with that being said, this would be one of those that will fall under that, which is why I said leave it towards the end, because there's a few other areas that.
Like she said, if we want to challenge her next month, we can do it at any time with the contract she has.
Mm.
So we don't have to worry about waiting for it to end. That's how hers is.
Yeah, my thought was just like, my mentality was going into this is if we're going to look at all the contracts and possibly come to a consensus to see if we could renegotiate all of them, then start doing them now.
Well, we could, but we got to get this done.
Wow.
Yeah, just on contracts, I mean, it depends on what type of contracts there are. You got to do RFQs or, put them out the bid depending on the type and the length of the service contracts. I constantly look and keep an eye on contracts. For instance, I know the council brought up trash service maybe 2 years ago about wanting to go out and redo the contract on that. And it was really easy because neighboring towns just redid the bid. I was able to see at the RP, and the bids they were coming back, even from our provider, were several dollars per resident above. And that's kind of like I pulled the Howie bid. What were the bids that came in, for legal services? So just getting that, I constantly do look at that to see, but there's great examples out there, because as towns look and do bids, you can kind of see if you're competitive, if where you need to be, and things along that line, just for whatever that's worth.
And I
Right.
understand that, but not all towns are exactly the same. We're probably like the smallest population town around here. Everything else is like 15, 20,000 residents and above, so.
Which usually makes us more expensive, believe it or not, per capita person, what we run into, because your size, usually, because we're having that problem with our special magistrate, for instance, you know, they moved on to another city because there wasn't enough work for them to do, so we have now considered paying more to kind of keep them. In general, you know, I'm just talking generalities, but what a lot of people understand is generally, I would say 95% of everything we have to do, Winter Garden has to do, Oakland has to do, Claremont, it's the same, the same audit we have to do, the same policies, the stuff that we turn in for the trim, exact same, just a little bit, you know, they may have a zero they add onto the on the back of it, may have more paperwork that goes in with it, but it's all the same stuff that does have to get turned in for whatever that's worth.
The volume gives them a discount. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I mean, you'll see that year after year as you go through it. It's pretty obvious after a while. Like the garbage is a good one. The more houses, the less they pay. Mineola, the prices they're paying on garbage, I was like, you know, 10 years ago I would argue it and say, why aren't we getting that? And then after the years and years, you kind of see that some companies don't even want the little town to be a garbage picker.
So, Astatula just hired David Langley. Is there any idea if you can look at what they're paying him, or look at their budget workshop?
I'm not sure,
meetings?
did you pull his by chance?
So that was like within the last year that they hired him.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look and see what that rate is. I can definitely get that for you.
I think that would be pretty comparable as well.
Sure. Okay.
Astatula hired David Langley. Can you hear that? Yes. So within the last year, and I feel like that would be a pretty comparable place to start looking at, you know, what other towns are paying.
Well, I guess is everybody okay with that line, or do you want to go more on it? Carol, you good? I'm good. Okay.
Okay. Page 3, permitting. Last year was 553,000. This year it's budgeted at 545,000. This is generally a user-supported budget, and it just depends on what the permitting is. So if $700,000 in revenues come out, you're going to have somewhere close to $650,000 worth of expenses. So this one we do adjust with budget amendment. But nothing spectacular change here. We are expecting some development, some different things, and the fees. The only change that we will be looking at this, the legislators just passed basically some new statutes that's going to make us re-look at our permit fees and the structure of them. And so that could have some impact once we review that legislation if it gets signed by the governor. I'd be glad to answer any questions in this one.
No, I have two.
Yes.
Line item 67, professional services and planning. For 25, we had 102,000, and then obviously the proposed budget for 27 is 50,000.
Yeah, it's a so there's two things going on here in the planning. So we have a liability account and we have our budget account. So the budget amount is for planning services rendered to the town. Like when the town says, hey, we want to explore a CRA, we want to explore entitlements, which we did a lot of that in 25. So you had your planner doing a lot of things that weren't related specifically to development. But then on the reverse end, if there's planning services related to development, the developer pays for it, and that does not reflect in your budget. It's just an in and out liability account is what we call it. So that's why you kind of see a difference. It all depends on the services. If I recall right, 25, we did a budget amendment for that. And it was, I think we had the CRA, we had entitlements we went through, and there was a couple extra services. We had a lot of code changes too that we went through in 25. It seems like we did some code changes. So that was just a result of a budget amendment. So again, this one is just kind of flexible. I never know what council's gonna say, you know, Planner Parks, you know, we want some information, let's change this code, let's change this, or let's look at doing this, looking at that. It's kind of a guessing game. I hate saying it on that one, because it's up to council if you want extra services out of that department.
Wasn't 2025, wasn't that the comp plan change as well?
Oh yeah, we did have the comp, that's true. We had that huge comp plan change. And we have another one that's coming due too, here pretty soon. And Mr. Rubio, what was your other question number?
So Parks Consulting then ultimately is the only one that falls under that 50,000 budget for 27.
Mike, can
Or
you
is
look
there
at that,
another
confirm
vendor
that real
or
quick?
other services?
We're gonna confirm if he's the only one under there.
The next line item is 68, building official fees. We kind of bounced around in 24. We had 523 to 341 and 25, and now we're going to budget 250 on it.
Yeah, so this is what we pay for our building inspectors specifically. So the higher ones you see, every year we do a budget amendment for this. Since I've been here, we haven't had a year, so.
It's Willow Ridge.
Yeah, 2024 was Willow Ridge. They turned in a lot more permits and houses got built than anticipated. Willow Ridge is on the downhill swing now. I think they're down to a handful of lots. But Osgood's gonna be popping up. But by the time they build houses, it might get toward it. Well, they start in August, September, October, you know, that we just don't know. So we likely will do another budget amendment on that as well. But again, that's in and out. The developers pay that, so it's really run, you know, if it goes up, it's because the developer paid more fees and we have more revenue. If we only spend 100,000 because no houses got built.
So it's safe to say if Osgood and Bella Clean are going at the same time with building, that we could possibly see
$750,000 easily.
But remember, we're taking that money in. This the expense account will have revenue to match it.
And it works out to where the building official gets about 65% of the building fee, and we get about 35 to run our administrative expenses on our side. Okay, and we're checking on that. We had a little computer freeze here since we get that cleaned up.
In the
I'll let
meantime,
you know.
line item 85, capital equipment and buildings. We have numbers for 24, 25, but then nothing for year-to-date 26 budget nor 27 budget.
Yeah, so in that section there, that was the pro rata share of the permitting office that went into the library. Don't anticipate having to do any capital for permitting this year. So why Maya is looking and researching that real quick, just as we go through the budget, when you look at the different salaries that are in there, I have it punched in with a 4.5% for staff, which is 3% CPI and 1.5% merit for staff. We could talk about that later, but just as you look at those salary numbers, so you can kind of see why you see those little increases. And the insurance that you see, every year I plug in both health and liability insurance at an 8% increase. We don't get those numbers, unfortunately, until after the budget is approved every year, when they give us their estimates of what the increase is going to be. And we've seen them anywhere from 5.5% to, I think, 10.5 to 11% sometimes. So I figured when we budgeted 8%, it usually averages out pretty good. And sometimes it'll leave us a little bit of extra money in there for future if we need it, or additional buildings or employees as they come on. So half engineers is also in there as well, Mr. Rubio.
Engineers like Woodard and Curran, or?
No, half engineers. So half engineers are the town's civil engineers that review commercial buildings specifically, or when we have a problems such as maybe a variance or there's a land issue or something like that, they'll review all the developments. Any questions that is related kind of on that engineering side where we need a civil to discuss something on there.
Wildan is our building official.
Wildan is our building official, yes.
When was their contract initiated?
So their contract used to be Alpha, and Alpha bought Wildan out, so the contract transferred over to them. And there's honestly, I think there's 2 other players in the area that do that. And from talking to other managers, yeah, everybody seems to be the happiest with Wildan. They are very responsive to us and do a great job. Any other questions on permitting? Okay, flip your page over to page 4. Public safety. Last year's budget was 187,515. This year budget is 183,340. Just maintain this at our current rate going in there. Anybody have any questions on that?
I do. For line 96, the vehicles, equipment leases.
Yes.
We don't have anything for 26 or 27 as a budget. What?
Yeah, the current vehicle that we had, we did it on a 3-year lease. I think we got like a 0.9% interest rate just to spread it out when we did it, and so it's through that, and so it's fully paid off now.
Okay. And then for 89 and 90, we don't have any numbers for 24 and 25. Do we have like any numbers for 2023, 2022, professional services and contractual services?
So they're not in there in the past. That's where the highway patrol and the sheriff's department was at, and we just that'll actually come out of the budget, so you won't see it. It's not even, it shouldn't even be there. So basically, when you look at 91 and 92, that used to be 89 and 80. And the reason it just printed that, it had a different code on the counting code that used to be with it. So we amended the code because they used to be mixed up in there together, the sheriff's and the highway patrol. So I just separated them out so I can kind of keep track of which ones I use a little bit better. Yeah, we could remove those in the future ones. Okay, any other on public safety?
Good.
Okay. Questions, fire control, 18.5, 19.2. Any questions on that? That's fire control and post office. And that's just mainly maintenance of the fire building when the air conditioner goes down. So next is code compliance. Current budget this year is 28.479. I'm proposing a budget of 50,959. And the main increase on that one is under professional services on 123. I'm currently talking with 2 other local municipalities about working together and possibly working with Wildan. They have a code enforcement section. And basically sharing between the 3 municipalities, if we all agree, they can justify a code enforcement officer where we can have them a couple days a month, and the other municipalities that need them, twice a week kind of thing, could have them. And so I am proposing that we can hopefully get a contracted code enforcement officer to assist. It's just, unfortunately, it always seems when they come in, I just don't have time to do them, and it usually falls on me. I just haven't been able to with the workload we've had to take care of code enforcement. Any questions on that? And see if everybody's okay with that one.
For legal services, so the line right below that, 124.
Yes. Let's see, 5,000.
Yeah, for 25 was 2025 actual was 90, and we're gonna budget for 27 5,000. So what does that entail? Legal services.
Probably have to check on that. No, I think I got that. Where do we have an asterisk in that? No, we didn't have them before. let me check on that real quick. I just don't recall on that one. It may be in our notes.
Didn't we go after the Santana in 25?
Yeah,
Code enforcement.
that's what I'm having to check. I think it might be related to when the council has to take extraordinary actions for filing court cases, because we do have 3 of those that could possibly come before council that need to be addressed one way or the other.
You got a couple coming now too?
There's, well, not coming right now because I don't have a magistrate, but there's a couple that could come before council again.
This year?
Yeah.
Coming next year, rather.
Yeah, then we did, the council approved a foreclosure, I want to say 1.5 years, 2 years ago. But since the property's homesteaded, we have to pull that out and dismiss it until the property becomes non-homesteaded. So there was one that was hanging out there, but we do have a couple more that could possibly come to council if you choose to.
Just curious, how far did it go into that one, like for the foreclosure one? Like, I guess, like how much legal fees and attorney fees or just cost to look into that one before obviously it was dropped because of the homestead?
I think we just filed. It wasn't homesteaded when it was started, but it was homesteaded, I think, through the process is what happened.
Is that Santana?
No.
Oh.
The cabin.
Hmm?
The cabin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Any other questions on code? Flipping over to page 5. Solid waste went to 305 to 350. We'll have a CPI increase that I'm sure will come before council, and also includes because we have new trash cans, or not, excuse me, not new trash cans, but new customers that will have new trash service for. So as the final people move into Willow Ridge, every one of those is a new service, so we have more revenue coming in, more expenses going out.
And that also applies, and I assume, with Osgood and Bella Colina, where that number could double.
Yeah, more than likely, by the time they get to the trash can and, to the CO process, that'll be the 2028 budget, more than likely. I mean, we could start seeing some come in. If we do, we'll have to do a budget amendment, but we'd also have more revenue to cover that.
So we could also use that as negotiating power to negotiate the rate, I assume, because now it's going to be a lot more houses.
You can try, but they want to negotiate the rate up, not down. So it's going to be hard with them because we're one of their lowers in the system. I wish we had a longer contract, but we can definitely try. But really the majority, unfortunately, the majority of what we're getting hit with is waste disposal fees. Every year, those are continuing to go up. And Mayor and I actually attended a meeting, and briefly we could talk about it later, but we're in 10 years there's a herd of trouble, and there's a consideration of like all the cities and the counties are going to have to throw some money in and build a new waste site, or we're going to be putting this stuff on rail cars going to Georgia or something. So there's, I think, a 10-year life left to the one that we have, and so it's a stirring problem where you could see these rates go through the roof for our citizens. So it's something as managers and as the mayor's attendant our mayor meetings, we're talking about solutions to how to deal with something that's going to be a problem 10 years from now.
And that's, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to bring it up at the end. That's definitely something for the council to take a look at when it comes to the strategic plan, because if you theoretically say that in about 10 years everything is built out, think about the cost that we're going to have, and there's no additional revenues coming in at that point. There's nothing new that's going to get developed that's going to bring us, hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes and permitting fees and anything else. And at that point, if we continue with these expenses, we're going to be in a really bad financial position. So that's why I reinforce my conservative approach from here on out with any budget. It's just we need to really tread carefully because this will come back and basically bite us in 10 years. So I just want to put that out there.
I didn't follow it. Say it again.
So once everything is built out, Osgood, Bella Collina, in 10 years, all these expenses are going to double and triple. Garbage, there was another one that obviously Paul said is going to be like $750,000, and it's just going to keep climbing the expenses. The revenue, we're going to start taking that in during that process. But once everything's built out, there's no additional revenue that we're going to get. There's no new permitting fees, code compliance, or not code compliance, but building services, or just anything else that brings us money during the construction phases. So at that point, what our income is, what our revenue is, that's what it is. But then at that point, all our expenses have tripled, possibly, even 4x. So at that point is when we're going to have issues. The salaries are going to be higher, the insurance cost is going to be higher. All these expenses are going to be 3 times more, possibly even more. So it's best to take a conservative approach beginning now, planning for those 10 years from now. So whoever's up here, they're not going to pull their hairs out trying to figure that out.
No, I understand. Okay, in my own experience, revenue just kind of stopped in '09, just because the economy was dead. So for the next, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years, nothing. We didn't get any more revenue. But there wasn't any building. We didn't get no revenue. But like a garbage thing, if they want to raise it, $3 a house, $5 a house, it went up. So every year that if things were going up in those 8, 9, 10 years, we didn't have any extra income. And the values of the homes were going down, the taxable values were going down, so it was hurting us even more because we would collect less money. So I don't know, did you follow that?
I follow that, but we also didn't have the capital improvements that we have now and the ones that we have planned in the future that at some point we're going to have to, obviously, replacement costs, repair costs, and so on and so forth. And by then we could end up with, I don't know, maybe another sewer plant. So.
Yeah, well, the only option then is to raise taxes. But we were able to get through the bad 10 years with the values of the homes going down. We were able to get through that by managing just better every year. So don't be too afraid of it, because we just did it.
We also didn't have a town manager. We didn't have the amount of staff that we have now. Obviously, we have a lot more equipment, buildings. So there's a lot of things that weren't in play then.
Right, but you're going to have Willow Ridge, Bella Collina, Osgood, an extra 150 lots filled in that weren't before. Those are all going to generate revenue. And if we have to go up a point or so, we have to go up. There's no other way around it. But you're right, we need
Or we could get used to, basically navigating on a short budget now, so we could kind of avoid increasing any taxes, because at the end of the day, the residents are going to pay. And it's not fair for the older residents to have to pay because of all the new construction.
Well, the new construction, you're saying like replace swings and replace whatever, maintenance stuff, right? Not really new construction.
Roads, everything else that comes with that. Obviously, even our events. That means more people, accommodate more. The budget has to increase for those events.
Well, the CRA would help with that too.
No, CRA would help us in that. Yeah.
Unless I guess the gravy train from the state money to us goes away, and then that's a moot point. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. And points well taken. And I really honestly think over at least my tenure here, I know the mayor's been here, we've kept our property taxes at 2.83 mils, and you're always going to have hopefully a little bit of, as inflation grows, you will always get a little bit increase in some property tax revenues and sales tax revenue and shares tax revenues as more people move in and out of Florida. But yeah, you could definitely have some down years, but we definitely have taken a conservative, I think, approach this by when you look at our taxes compared to everybody else. So it gives us a lot of wiggle room in there. But I think your point is taken, where right now, as much as the infrastructure we can get done, we don't have to do later, and because that was something the town could without that, for instance, adopting impact fees when they adopted them in 2017, that's doing a lot of the repairs that we need to do now. And so hopefully we get most of those things. We are just into a maintenance mode, and as we have more residents, we get to spread that cost out. water, I think utility as an example, because we had less residents, we had to keep increasing water rates 5% every year just to try to get enough in the system to maintain it at a normal rate. And now we're not able to, we're able to just hold where we're at. And over time, inflation kind of catches up, everything gets more expensive, but we're maintaining that because we do have more residents on the system. So it does help. So there's a balance of, those residents that are here are also going to help maintain that a little bit more by keeping costs down. As you talked about earlier, just kind of that cost sharing across by just having more.
Well, like the garbage here, the expense is 350,000, the revenue is 385. So right now we're actually ahead, $35,000.
Yeah, because we do have some, staff expenses and time in that. But yeah, I mean, and it is, if garbage comes back and it costs us, $25, $35 to collect garbage, that's, it's a service we provide. There's no one's going to do it any cheaper than, what we're able to negotiate together as a town. That's why towns do it. So it'll have to be passed on, obviously.
Well, it's good talk, though. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Public Works, the budget was $389,141 last year. This year, the proposed budget's $138,268, and the big difference in that is just the, we plugged in the hurricane money, repair money, and we didn't really program it for anything. So I pulled that out of there, and we have that money now kind of going over in the park. So you'll see that money pop over in the park section when we get into there. Otherwise, any other questions on Public Works?
For line 150, repair and maintenance.
Yes.
So we're basically doubling essentially the budget from the 25 actual to 27.
Yeah, correct. We're halfway through, and we're at 7,000, and we're kind of at the point this next year. I'm probably going to have to put tires on several vehicles and a couple pieces of equipment, and just have a few things reworked. So that's really just based off of kind of where we're at now with additional maintenance we have on some of the equipment.
Yeah, we've all bought tires lately, and $8,000 goes fast.
Yeah, if oil doesn't go down, that's going to be the next one that's really going to bite. Roads and facilities. Last year's budget was 521. This year's budget is 530. The only change, I did add a little bit more extra money in there for infrastructure for street resurfacing and sidewalks.
You don't need to buy no more equipment?
No, I think we're pretty good for this next year coming up. We're in good shape. We do have this year it's spread out among all the departments. We had a new public works vehicle that's on order, so that'll been on order for months. So hopefully in the next few months that'll be in, and we should be good for the time being. This budget, I'm not asking for any additional employees to be added, either in public works or any departments, so maintaining what we got, and then we'll see where we're at next year as far as with residents and going from there. If we do have additional revenues, like I said, I usually try to be conservative on the first shot of revenues. I would propose that we put some additional money into that infrastructure, street, sidewalk, because it seems to, just the long-term maintenance. And, as you know, I've been going around identifying the worst roads that need to be repaved, and I'm probably going to do Burke and Palm because they're starting to really pull up, and that's kind of my last real bad section, except for Gladys. That's probably, once we get the water line in there, that one will probably be done next year. But the next thing I would like to do on the paving with that group we have is start looking at all the entrances of all the developments, subdivisions, whether it's Long Ridge, Mag Terrace, and because usually where those stop signs are or cars stop, that's kind of where you start to see that things really break up, and maybe kind of tackle those and get all those entrances, start a program at hitting those next. Any other questions on roads and streets?
Yeah, 181. road materials and supplies, for 2025 actual is 30,000, and then it's gonna be 12.5 for 2027.
Yeah, and I haven't spent this year's yet, and so I'm kind of combining this year's and next year's for 24. So that's usually the bags of the road patch for the potholes. That's what I think the majority comes out of that. And we had some left over from 25. I believe we're out now. I was just hoping the prices would drop down a little bit more, but so we'll buy probably a pallet or two this year, and then a pallet or two next year to keep up just for potholing. Any other questions? Special events. Last year was 142. This year I have budgeted at 162. Everything seems to be getting more expensive.
For line item 190, Fall and Spring Concert Series, year to date we're at 16,000 practically, but for 2027 we're only going to budget 8,500. Is that?
Yeah, so that was the special town picnic we did this for Easter. I don't anticipate we'll do that next year. It was just kind of thought because our 250th, everybody kind of mentioned that that would be a good thing to do for our community for the 250th. But that is one if you want to do that again this year. It was really a lot of work, and it does include overtime there for staff. And honestly, if YWAM didn't show up, we would be in a
I think this went dead, Caroline. So I'll make sure yours working. Okay.
Any other questions on that? Thought you guys were going to say get rid of Montverde. Let's see. All right.
Wishful thinking.
Cemetery, this same as last year, 7,200 and 7,200. Any questions on cemetery? This one's we just put some in there. You know, sometimes we have special repair we have to do in there, a fence or breaks, or then we have a reverence program. If as people pass, we do send them a flower from on behalf of the town. So we like that number low. Library, last year we had 177,000 budgeted. This year I have $194,000 budgeted.
Just curious for line 230. 2025 we spent 16,000. I can't imagine that books and miscellaneous materials are going to head up to 16,000, or maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah, so a lot of that was the capital purchase. The capital purchase when we opened the new library. But yeah, books unfortunately are pricey.
But wasn't there a grant, or part of the grant was?
There was, and we used that as well. But we also had some under here too.
How much was that we used of the grant for books?
It was. I think I want to say 27,000 on books.
And on top of that, 16,000.
Correct. So some of that goes to there's some programming stuff for special books and orders and things for big read stuff and ADA stuff that we put in there. But yeah, I mean, a book's $20 for some books. It's nuts. Any other questions on library? Okay. So, last in general is the Parks and Rec Department. Last year's budget was $385. This year's budget is $560. Two major things. So I have in this year's current budget, we have the 140,000 in there for the new playground equipment, combined with spending obviously several $100,000 out of our impact fees. I went ahead and just shown it here in case we don't get that done this year. It's just so you could see it's going to roll over. So that's the fine money we have from impact fees, or excuse me, from code enforcement. Council agreed many years ago, just let's make sure that gets back into the community for something positive for the community when we collect fines. And so that's just rolling over from this year. The 200,000 is helping fix Truscott Park. Right now, I had Sandy actually check today, and the federal government issued the voucher to the state for our cost for recovery of the storm debris in an amount around $185,000. So that means we should, that's where that revenue is kind of coming in to help with Truscott Park out there. We're still, it's unlikely we're going to get anywhere significant with FEMA to do a replacement for the boardwalk. After 2 evaluations, you know, we're kind of stuck at about 10 grand, and they just won't seem to. And again, every month you pick up the phone, it's a different person there. So it's unlikely, especially talking to other city managers, you know, we're just like, no one's going to really, you know, take what they give you at this point, because you may not get anything. So that part of Truscott Park is going to involve some more stormwater programs, so there'll be some stormwater capital money that would go in there. But this kind of takes care of helping getting that boardwalk back to place. Or if we end up halted with the storm money, we can regrade it and at least get it semi back open here within the next year or so. If we do get this money sooner this year, and we have time to pull that off this year, I'll just bring a budget amendment for this year to do it this year, and we'll take it out of this 27 budget, if that makes sense, so we can get that done sooner. So, any questions on Parks and Recs?
Line 244, operating supplies, like what would fall under that to warrant, I guess, 20,000 for 2027?
Yeah, 25, we sent 26. So under operating supplies, anything special we need to order that breaks, and so it could be from the swing chains to the garbage bags we ordered to just anything for operations of it. It kind of goes up and down, just depends on, you know, sprinkler systems that go in and break, things along that line. So it's kind of a catch-all for anything that basically kind of goes wrong with the park. And, you know, that also combines with, you know, repair and maintenance. You know, that's concrete breaking. You know, we're going to have to restain the stage at some point here, probably in the next year or so. So things along that line would fall under those two, between those two categories. They kind of mix interminglingly with each other.
There's cameras in the park now too, right?
There's cameras in the park. We have a few that they're actually ordering some parts to do some repair. We have some lightning strikes, so they're looking and putting some lightning resistors on that. So yes.
Where does that fall under?
Generally, the cameras I've been putting under security, in the security section under public safety. If it's a capital for an improvement, then yeah, it would end up under here under parks. If we added cameras, I would put it under the parks. Then the upkeep and maintenance I put under the public safety for the operation.
Since we're in the topic on cameras, I guess just a rough estimate, how many cameras do we have?
I would say probably no more than 40. I'd have to look at the number. I honestly don't remember. Not all of them are operational at the moment. We have some in and out internet issues every time we get a surge, especially in the old part of town where we don't have a lot of things. Some go down and we got to get those fixed, but somewhere in that ballpark.
How about in these buildings? Are the cameras working just fine in these buildings? Or?
I believe they all are, yes.
And they do video and audio, or just video?
I believe they're just video.
How long do we keep the data, the videos for?
So it is required that we keep them for 30 days under the retention schedule, state retention schedule. We are doing some upgrades to the hard drives. Since we moved over to the new system, there needs to be some updates done to those for better retention, though.
Is there anything that specifically dictates the 30 days, or is that?
State statute.
Okay.
We can develop your own policy. Keeping video is very expensive because what we have is all high definition, so it's storing, rolling video nonstop is it's very cumbersome on the hard drives.
But the cameras in the buildings are the ones that usually work. The ones further away from the buildings are the ones that constantly go down. Is that-
I mean, there's sometimes problems with, they go in and out. I have them here every month fixing things. The new library we haven't had any problems with. We've had issues here. They've been down here. We've had them up. The park and the community building, we have some issues back and forth there occasionally. But, we can get them serviced and fixed when we need to. We also got them in all of our water buildings as well.
But safe to say, though, in the last 60 days at least, the ones here have been working just fine.
I would have to look, honestly. There may have been some down there, I just don't remember. There's probably a dozen of them right now they were out here last week working on them.
Well, I digress a little bit there, but line item 248, capital benches, tables, amenities. We spend 39.6 in 2025. Year to date is $3,000, and then we're gonna go from 40,000 current budget to 20,000.
Correct. So these are capital, so things that last for a while. So we just ordered some new trash cans for the park. Just 12 trash cans is $13,000. We have some benches that are some safety concerns. We got to get those fixed here pretty soon in the park. Adding some park benches, things along that line. Improvements to the butterfly gardens go into there as well. Or anything else we want to add something to to make the park nicer. Okay. So that leaves a total budget of $3,484,900 for general. Any other questions or topics on that? Okay. Water utility, which is page 9 and 10. Excuse me. Current budget is $1,207,000. Proposed budget is $1,235,000. Nothing overly significant. Some things moved around in some areas. I assume we're going to be done with our CUP. Hopefully, never thought it'd be this long, but still kind of finishing up our CUP. I'm sure we'll have a few other engineering services and some things as we work with St. John's conservation plans, things along that line. Any specific questions?
I have a few. We're under the water utility services, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see. So line 265 is the other 50% that you were talking about from the beginning. You said that was spread loaded, I guess, between that department and this department?
That's correct.
Okay. 269 professional services. 24 and 25, it was around 60K. Year to date is 23. Amended budget for this year is 139.9, and then we're going down to 90. So I guess what's the spike for this year's budget?
Most of that's related to the exemptive use permit. So I think on this next agenda, you're going to have another $45,000 to spend on that. And really, so far, as a part of that CUP process, we've been able to work with St. John's not to have to do some extra study stuff as modeling, an extensive mod flow. If we would have done that, that would have been $100,000. So far, our engineers, Warner and Kern, have just been working with them to explain the size of our town, where we're at. They've asked for extra conservation efforts and some additional things in lieu of that, and I think we're going to be okay. So that's why you saw that high budget that year, is because we had a letter from them model the whole thing, and also model a complete plan to do the whole town with a alternative water supply, which that would have been very expensive too. That would have been probably a $60,000, $70,000 study as well. So far they have backed off that with some limited study data without going into a heavy detail.
263, the retirement plan. 2024 was 30, 2025 42. We're sitting at 27 year to date. Budget for this year is 50. it's kind of the same scenario as I forget which one I mentioned, where it's not really incrementally, like slowly going up, it's just spiking. Is there, I guess, a reason behind the huge spike in the last 2 years?
Yeah, as we've gotten more employees and refined duties over the last few years, we've been breaking, if you go to back on those pages where it breaks the percentage of the employees out, we've been redoing some of those, and as new employees come on, so if you get a new employee, obviously you're going to see a spike in that, which one of the public works person, for instance, was a water, kind of a dedicated water employee.
Do you foresee us having to get more employees?
No,
Not this year, and hopefully not next. I mean, when the build out is, it's possible we could see 1 or 2 more employees, if anything, be in the public works area. Right now, I think we're doing okay, and it all depends too. When if council asks more and more stuff of staff, we got to have staff to do it. If we, depending on what you ask for, if it can't be contracted out or subbed out, if you want more events and more things hosted and more this and that in the library, more office hours in the library, it's been brought up, things like that, it's going to take employees.
I assume the same thing, like the more grants, the more infrastructure upgrades that we're doing, that could also, I guess, make it to where we need additional people, I guess.
It does take extra work. Usually puts us in overtime to work some of the grant stuff. It's kind of one of those things that's not every day all the time. It's like every quarter it stinks kind of thing. It's probably more on me than a lot of the other employees, and probably is probably the one hit it the most. And a little bit on the clerk's office, who has to manage the grant stuff as well. So.
Line 293, the bulk purchase of water, Oakland. I guess what does that entail?
Yeah, so we have an interagency agreement with the town of Oakland, and we purchase raw water from them, potable water, and we provide 98 homes water service over by Orange County on Oakland on the Lake County side. So that's the Popka Sound development. So they're in our 180 district service district, so anything in the 180, we provide that water service for.
294, the water meters. We went from 39K in 2024 to 11K in 2025, and then now we're going to budget for next year 104.
Yeah, so that's those last couple of years. We've when Willow Ridge first came in, we did a large purchase of them because they wanted to do a lot of homes at first, and that probably be more reflected in the 23 budget. And then we purchased, but I'm anticipating purchasing this year, getting another couple hundred on storage, because not only we have to buy the water meters, we have to buy for the developments the reuse meters, because we're required to have separate meters with St. John's, where every house gets 2 meters now. So we'll be purchasing a group of them this year, and then next year we'll have to purchase another one. And it's possible if both those developments take off, you're going to see a budget amendment to increase that. But with that said, it's another in and out category, because every house pays $2,100 to have their meter purchased and installed. So if that category goes up to $250,000, it's not coming out of general fund. The developers are paying for it. With the exception, we have to purchase some for repairs and maintenance throughout the town. So there's a certain percentage of that, obviously, probably 10-15% that is actual town expenses. Any other questions on water? Okay, sewer enterprise. So this year's current budget is $202,000. The proposed budget is $329,000 for the sewer. This is mainly associated that we'll have we run obviously sewer for Willow Ridge through a lift station agreement with Claremont. We run a sewer system for Apopka Sound as well. Both of those developments, Apopka Sound's fully built out. Willow Ridge is close to getting there, so we're gonna have a lot more residents come on, so we're gonna have more fees associated, more expenses and costs. And also we'll run the sewer system for the hills of Montverde. That will be done by a contract operator to run that. Public Works has a little bit of play in that. If there's repair, emergency maintenance, things like that, they'll be involved. But most of that is related to increases related to the contract operator and also the utility supplies and chemicals that be needed for the operation. And so this is a service fee provided. So I also did include some money in reserves, repair and replace, that we're putting money away every year like we have, and whatever extra money, I usually try to keep this budget lower and revenues will likely be higher, so we're always building up a little bit of cash reserve in case we have something break large in the future. But any questions on sewer?
Sure. Line item 312, contractual services. In 24, we only spent $660, 25, $237, and now we're going to budget $40,000 for 2027.
Yeah, so again, this is for operating the actual sewer plants themselves. So right now, we just operate lift stations. We're going to actually have sewer plants to operate.
That's
So-
two of them, right?
Two of them if you choose to, yes.
So then
One
that
for
cost technically is going to go up with the third one from Bella Colina.
Bella Colina will be the second.
Oh, that'll be something.
Yeah. Yep. And so those are paid by service fees for the people that use them. So it's designed where no residents pay for anything related to sewer unless you have sewer. So,
Now, how I watch that is the revenue coming in against the numbers here, just so give you some outlook on it. But you would have to look at all of them.
yeah. And it's one, as you told, when we looked at the study that was provided by Wildan for the rate study, they recommended, once these get operational, we'll have Hills Montverde operational, and I mean, they're going to be fully built out pretty quick. I mean, probably by the end of the year, the rate they're going, that, in another year or two, if we're not hitting targets or the targets are too high or too low, that we update the study and adjust so we can adjust the rates accordingly. So if it costs them $60 to run it, then it's 60, with all of our expenses, if it's 100, it's 100.
Okay. You're gonna go through just
I'll just see if
information,
anybody
right?
has questions. Most of that's just supporting documents for the budget. So if anybody
Mhm.
wants to review that or have questions, I'd be glad to jump in and review that.
Can you explain the budget process to everybody? What's the next step and when it happens and all that?
Sure. I didn't hear any two major changes anybody wants to that. So the next step is we're going to refine the numbers a little bit more once we kind of hear from the state and the county with their numbers and kind of clean it up. I'll bring another draft before council just to take a look at. We'll do some tweaking. Then in September, they will not be on our regular council meeting days. In September, we have to have 2 public budget hearings, and during those hearings, that's when we'll actually present the budget that we want to approve. The first one will get all the public comment you want, make sure there's anything else you want to change or tweak on that first one. Will be the public comment, and I think it's going to be held on a Wednesday. We got some dates we'll get to you. Then also, as a part of that process, if the governor signs it, there's a new statute where we have to go through an exercise where we show the budget as if there was a 10% reduction in revenues. So the council could look at that. So we'll, Nancy and I will prepare something for that and for you to look at, and then you guys will discuss that. Then after you have that first reading of the budget, we come back for a second reading. It'll be in late September, and that'll be the adoption hearing. That's when you'll formally approve the budget. Along the way, there will also be a maximum millage resolution that you'll have to approve. That sets the maximum millage rate for the town. Historically, we just set it at our rate because town councils never had interest. Most cities set it much higher than what they want to do, then just settle kind of somewhere in the middle where they're at. But we've always just kept it at the same 2.3, so you'll have that process as well. Nita, is there anything else in that process I'm missing on it? Okay, so that's it.
One page I'd like to point out to people, Carol and Brian and Grant, is this one. And it takes each position that we have and the percentages that go to different departments. That kind of helped me a lot by having Paul put this together. Because we're such a little tiny town, one person does 4 different departments, and this kind of helps you, when you look at, like, I don't know, Paul, and say, okay, what does he do? You can go right to the town managers and see where his pay is cut. He more or less does it all, so that's not a good example. But like your utility billing clerk is water, finance, and sewer. Where else? Your public works technician is all roads and sewer. That kind of stuff kind of helps when you're moving along. Thought I'd throw that out there to you guys. All right. Next topic is our water and stormwater, right?
All right. So just want to update the council on a couple of our projects. The first is, as you know, we put an application in our older well. The generator needs to be replaced. We've gotten official notification. We've been awarded. I'll get the amount at the next meeting. A little over $100-something thousand for that, with the town matching the rest for that. So Sandy's the one that actually attended the meetings and got that done for the town. And so we'll have a contract agreement with the state emergency office. Will be coming through hopefully next month for you guys to approve. Then we can go out to bid and get that generator hopefully replaced before hurricane season on that one. Next, I kind of want to talk to you about our 2 Chaffee, as I mentioned before. So the Chaffee is our stormwater and our water. One's 19.2, the other one's 12.9 million. As I mentioned, we were in facility plan phase with both of them and going kind of back and forth on the storm on the facility. Long story short, we're on the 19, we're running in some hiccups with the state and the terminology of it. We've been in the process with 2 years for them of going through facility plans and working through them, have it acknowledged, and working through it with them and doing everything they asked. And the EPA is really tightening down on the language, and they're putting some requirements that are not in the statute. That, at least in looking from what we can read, we can't see it in the actual statute that was passed. And mainly they're wanting to see damages from Hurricane Ian that taken place. Well, obviously we didn't have we had some loss of function and some cleanup, things along that line. But the statute specifically states loss of function and not necessarily damages, like severe damages. So we are at the point now, so we've gone through and with kind of the grant people, and we're working now with the deputy director to see if we can find a solution for this and the terminology. The next stage, if we don't get a solution with that, I am going to bring back to council. We need to probably, I haven't met with Anita about this, I want to consult with Anita, we probably need to get a specialty person that deals with legal issues related to DEP and EPA to have them talk to the DEP attorney. From what we've talked about with Woodland Recurrent, everything we've done, it was within the realm, and we applied for it. They awarded us the money, they gave us the money, they guaranteed us the money. We're down to a sentence, show us literally damage from the hurricane they want to see, even though it's not required in the legislation. So it's been a back and forth. We've been working on this hard for the last month and a half, trying to get a solution with them, but we're starting to escalate it, and we may need to, obviously we're talking about possibly getting some of our representatives involved in it, especially our U.S. congressperson, because it is federal legislation that we're dealing with. So that's a heads up, and we're also starting to now, we got our facility plan fully approved on the water system. They signed off on it, and we just got an email the other day is, hey, we need to go back and look and show some damages from the hurricane out of the blue. And so we're got to go have that conversation with them, and that one specifically doesn't even show, you have to show anything related to hurricane damages. So I don't know if it's political, the Doge thing going on or whatever, there's something a little kind of weird there, and we're trying to find out if it's happening to any other cities, but I'm not saying it's not gone, but anything along that line, but we are going to have to jump through some extra hoops, and there is a risk. I just want to let everybody know on that.
And that's to receive the money, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I brought this up with that $8 million loan that we're wanting to take out. And my question was specifically that, can the requirements change at some point where it delays the payment, which means we're stuck with the debt, servicing the debt, for a longer period of time that, we estimated. So I guess this is more of a, kind of note for that $8 million loan that we're willing to take out. That, I assume this could happen there too as well, right?
So no, so for instance, we've completed the facility plan in accordance with everything that's laid out, and we're gonna get reimbursed for all the facility plan. So that's all reimbursable. So everything in the process is, they approve it. Once it's approved, there's little steps in the way. So you can only go, once they say you can move to the next step, they'll reimburse the next step. Once you go to the next step, they'll reimburse the next step. So it's literally, you take a step, you get reimbursed, you take a step. Right now, we've already taken the step. They've already been reimbursing us for a facility plan because they agreed it's our money, they granted to us, and they're saying now stop and pause, we need to get this dealt with. And this language we need to get figured out. So we gotta get past that step before we go to the next one. So that's where we're at. So there's a check and balance so we don't end up like you just said. So if, in fact, when you get to the next part is, they approve the design plans before you can even bid. Once they approve the design plans, then yeah, you have the construction money that comes in. So I did put a pause, obviously, on the temporary one until we kind of get this resolved to see if we're just going to end up with water, the storm, or both. So we're working through that. We still have the 1.5 million out there and the other 450,000. That's all good. That's coming through the process, and you'll have grant agreements on that. So that's related to the storm project on the other side. But yeah, it's been a lot of weekends working on this with Woodward and Kern and the group trying to get through. So we've been working, executing, sending letters, and mainly just putting justification letters together and reviewing it back and forth with them. So we're going to do everything we can, obviously, to work it and get there.
So our exposure is only if they don't reimburse us after they say yes.
Well, so everything on the storm side for our facility planning that we're spending the money has been being reimbursed.
Yeah.
So and on the facility side, that's being reimbursed. We did go ahead. I don't think there's any exposure on that. We did go ahead and because we had our impact fee money designed, because we got to do it anyway, one way or the other. We designed our water facility plans for the water tower and stuff, but I come back and prove the facility plan, so they're going to have to reimburse that, and they won't have a choice to because they approved it. And we have designs, actually, they're ready to submit right now to them.
So if they stopped us right today, we still own the plants, and we could
Correct.
still move on
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
with everything. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I guess as a part of that conversation, one of their solution this was an email I need to figure out. Their solution was, why don't you put in for the program that's coming in June and July, because you have all the facility plan ready to go and you can get money through this program. So they're wanting to try to switch it from one program to another program, and we need to figure out why and what that's about. So they're not saying you're never going to get nothing. They're looking to try to find us a different ramp to a different program that suits better for what we're trying to do. But we're coming back and saying, you already proved this. You guaranteed it. You wrote it for us. You accepted it. And honestly, I don't think they can reprogram the money. From what we understand is that the money is actually programmed into the legislative language. This is what we get from the state.
How many towns and cities have applied for grant funding for the same thing?
I would have to look back. The ones that got this grant, it wasn't a whole lot. I'm just guessing. I want to say only 20-ish or maybe 30 max got it. Groveland got the same grant on their sewer system, and they ran into the same problem. But instead of them trying to go back at what they did in Groveland, my understanding is they moved them over to a different program, and actually they ended up getting more money. It was a combination of a loan grant, but they needed more money for their sewer system anyway. So, I don't have a lot of details of that, but, Woodward and Kern mentioned that is like, because it'll actually work out better for them at the end of the day than this program. And so that's what they're trying to throw out at us to do something. But, that's just a lot of work on my end and our end. It's just like, follow through. So I'll have definitely some updates here in the next week or two, and I'll send you some email updates out once we kind of get some more information on it. So we're you know, we just started to escalate it. So as last week, we just sent in the reconsideration letter to the deputy director for the DEP to start that process, the one that's over that department.
All right, you want to move on to capital strategies and workshops?
Yeah, so I don't know if the council had any more thoughts on the strategic plan review, if you had time to look at it, wanted to get into it heavier, or?
I looked at it, I'm okay, but if anybody else got anything? Carol?
I came prepared to get into it, so.
I'm sorry?
You want to pop your first slide up there? Or? So just, I think we're probably more of jumping to the first, goal, I guess it would be. So, Iman, why don't you go ahead and lead that off?
Hi guys. So for the first goal we have is the great quality of life. To reiterate it, it's to enhance the charm and aesthetics of small town living by preserving the physical environment for town residents to interact with, and by offering a multitude of community events. If there are any changes were there any changes you would recommend to the great quality of life goal? You guys had comments last time, and I still have them up on the document. So.
I don't have anything for the goal specifically, but more for the objective.
All right, nothing else on goals for everybody? Okay, go ahead and move over to the objectives.
To reiterate the objectives, number 1 is to preserve the small town character and charm of Montverde. Number 2, to promote events and venues that encourage the citizens to interact with each other in an upbeat environment. Number 3, increase the number of aesthetic amenities in Montverde's downtown and parks, including items such as additional benches, trash cans, lighting, sidewalks, and flower beds, to improve the overall appearance of the downtown business area. And number 5, provide excellent public safety to the citizens by utilizing contractors and technology. Provide quality fire and medical services to the citizens of Montverde.
So I don't have any edits for the 1 through 5. It's more of like addition to those. And some of these objectives, I feel like we should have like all-inclusive kind of language or wording for amenities. It's, you know, more to kind of define it further that, you know, these events are going to be geared towards everyone, not just a specific, you know, group of people. So that was, you know, something that we could possibly add to this, or.
And could you explain that? I'm not sure what that means, geared toward.
So, for example, promote events and venues. We could define these a little bit further. So, promote town events. Or we could say promote all-inclusive town events, or just some type of wording to just make the point across that the events that the town is going to do is going to be all-inclusive. Like, we're looking at the entire population, not just a specific demographics, for example. Like, in other words, like, the events are not just going to be like families with kids. No, it's all-inclusive. Like, there's going to be something for everyone, kind of thing. So I don't know how we could word that or add that to not only this objective, but some of the other ones as well. Anytime we mention events or anything that the town is going to hold. And then for this one, I looked at it from the quality of life, like what else entails the quality of life. Well, it's not just those things that are mentioned in number 3 and number 5, but we could mention something like, for example, noise, traffic, congestion, and then overdevelopment impacts. So maybe we could add some type of language there to acknowledge that, you know, we do see those things as well for the quality of life. So those are my only suggestions on adding to this. And again, I don't have specific language. I did write some in the strategic plan that I put together. It's 4 pages long. You know, that one's more written out, so you could use that as a reference to possibly add to this objective.
So other council members, any comments on Mr. Rubio's thoughts for the being included? You okay? Disagree? Like it? Love it?
No,
Go
Brian
on.
has some good ideas. We want to add some.
Okay. All right. So I guess responsible infrastructure is next.
Yes. To preserve and develop city infrastructure through careful planning, construction, and maintenance of transportation, drainage, utilities, and facilities in order to ensure the safety and viability of Montverde for its residents, businesses, and visitors. Were there any changes you would like to make to this?
I had a question on maintenance of transportation. Like, what does it mean?
Sure, our roads, just maintaining our roads. Sidewalks, modes of transportation.
My only suggestion would be just to spell it out. If it's roads and sidewalks, just put maintenance of road and sidewalks.
Sure. Trails.
Yeah, trails, for example, yeah. Maybe parks as well. That's it on the goal for me.
Anybody else? To the objectives there?
Sorry, I'm having mouse troubles.
Yeah, you're a little far away. You lost connection. Stick it on your left side and see, maybe just get it a little closer. Yeah, just work off paper then if you need to.
Okay. For the objective for the responsible infrastructure, number 1, prepare an assessment and action plan that addresses the maintenance of existing roads, keeping them in good repair. This will increase the longevity of town-owned roadways. Number 2, provide quality water and increase storage capacity to accommodate future development commitments. Number 3, replace the existing library in a cost-effective way with a multi-purpose library building that will increase capacity, functionality, and programs. Number 4, maintain parks in good working condition and consider creating a new park on the southwest side of town. Research opportunities to expand and connect existing trail system. Number 6, research cost and viability of providing wastewater treatment to protect the underground aquifers and lakes. Are there any changes you'd like to make for this?
For number 1, it addresses the existing roads. I would say maybe modify the language to include not only existing infrastructure that we have, but also future infrastructure. So an assessment for the future growth, we could possibly include that in there. For number 3, I think we already established that the library has been built, so maybe we don't need number 3. Or maybe we could just say that we're going to maximize the library with additional services or events or classes or whatever we're planning on doing. That's for number 3. Number 6 only addresses wastewater treatment. Obviously, the underground water, but maybe we could include additional language for the rest of the environment. So wetlands, for example, and for number 5, and I know I'm going bouncing, but number 5, research opportunities to expand, connect existing trail systems. I think that we are obviously in the process of connecting them, so maybe just instead of research opportunities, more of, I don't know, further plan what we have going on to unify, pretty much Willow Ridge to the rest of the town. But that's all I have for the objectives on that one.
Paul, on number 4, it says a new park on the southwest side of town. What's the thoughts on that?
Yeah, so previous council members have discussed that we don't have a park in that direction, and we've always talked about maybe making a small pocket park over by the water tower area. So there's something a little bit closer for people who live on that side of town. Just haven't done anything with it, got a budget for it, so. And I mean, it's a good question if council still wants to consider that or not.
And then, I mean, just one other thing with infrastructure, I mean, we could add something like traffic calming features when we do redo our roadways. I know we talked about like doing the diamonds in the middle of some of the streets to slow down traffic on some of the side streets and stuff like that. Maybe add something to address that.
Okay, yeah, if that's something council wants to do on future streets, we could look at it.
And then back to the park.
That does take a lot of additional right-of-way, which is going to take more people's front yards away, just as we have that discussion, though. So just give some thought to that. We can maybe come back and go in that a little further. Yes.
For the additional park, maybe, I guess we could try to take a survey or just get a sense of the residents if they feel like it's needed. Obviously, if it's not needed, then we could just reinvest that money that we could have put there to obviously the current park or adding additional stuff. So
is Osgood putting in a park or playground as well?
I don't believe they have any playground, and no. They have an amenity center, I think, with a pool, but that's for residents only.
Focus community planning, controlled housing growth, and targeted business development. To provide thoughtful and focused community planning, housing, and business development that is cohesive with the existing character of the community. Would there be any changes you would like for this goal?
I would suggest to maybe add existing and future. So existing character and future of the community. I guess, again, just to make sure that we're taking into account the future in all these goals and objectives.
Anything else? Let's go ahead and talk about the objectives.
Number 1, allow housing developments and annexation into the town of Montverde with ample consideration given to protecting the character of the community. Housing development must meet town standards which prioritize lower density developments. Number 2, council, staff, and planner will continuously assess codes to ensure future growth is harmonious to existing town character. Promote the downtown commercial area to attract small mom-and-pop business that will contribute to the unique culture of Montverde. Number 4, evaluate opportunities to expand parking and improve sidewalk access to the downtown area from nearby residential areas. Number 5, examine the town's nuisance codes to ensure properties are maintained in a manner that is not detrimental to surrounding properties. Will there be any changes you would like to that?
For number 1, my issue is with allow housing developments and annexation. It's voicing like we're gonna just be okay with any of those. Obviously, if it falls within our guidelines and our comp plan and everything else, then sure, but I don't know how I feel about the word allow. And if we must keep the word allow, maybe we could preface that word with carefully allow housing developments and annexations. Then for the third line, given to protecting the character of the community, but also the environment. You know, obviously, character, aesthetics is one thing and environment is another, so maybe just include the environment portion into that. Number 3 is directed towards attracting businesses. It doesn't really say anything to the current businesses that we have, so maybe promote current businesses, and obviously also attract you know, new businesses, but just I guess to include the current ones that we have. This one is not necessarily, I guess, revising any of these 1 through 5, but more of an addition. I don't know if we could add something along the lines of, you know, the town will do impact analysis on obviously anything that is being brought in front, such as the developments, annexations, and things like that. It's just more to communicate to the residents that, you know, we are going to look at those things. So I don't know where we could add that, maybe add it to number 1 or just its own separate line as to the wording. I guess we could come up with more specific wording for that.
Anything else, anybody? Fiscal?
Goal fiscal sustainability to meet or exceed citizen demand for exceptional service and infrastructure while maintaining appropriate long-term and short-term spending levels. Is there any changes you would like to make to this goal?
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Not for the goal itself, I have stuff for the objectives.
Go ahead to the objectives.
Objective fiscal sustainability. Number 1, town council and staff must be fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. Number 2, utilize the budget process to review and discuss long and short-term needs. Number 3, evaluate and plan for future large capital expenses. Number 4, encourage workshops and discussion at meetings to review and evaluate future capital projects, therefore budgeting appropriately to meet the needs of the expenses. Number 5, increase financial controls and capabilities. Were there any revisions you would like to make to this objective?
My suggestions would be maybe adding on to these, possibly number 5 since it's the smallest one, the shortest one. Emphasize maybe something about having a healthy reserves of some sort. Maybe we could quantify it, maybe just leave it open-ended. I would also say maybe we should include something in this objective as to the financial posture that we are wanting to take for the next 5 years and 10 years. Whether that's a conservative approach, an extremely conservative approach, or you know, just essentially mentioning what our posture is when it comes to finances. We could also include something in there in regards to like a multi-year forecasting, that the town could do a multi-year forecasting, whether again 5 years, 3 years out, 10 years out, and nothing too in detail, just maybe something of establishing that we are looking for that future impact. Now I know it says for number 1, fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars, we could say something additional to that, avoid unnecessary debt. Maybe we could mention that. or we could just leave that out if we input the conservative or the financial posture, I should say. I love the words transparency and accountability. So maybe we could include an additional line where obviously, we're gonna hold the town council and staff accountable for, any fiscal actions that, kind of put us in the negative of some sort. Again, just a voice to the residents, there's consequences, right? If something is mismanaged, then we need to look into it and remediate that issue, so. That's all I got for objective.
Anything else from everybody?
Our next goal is organizational excellence, to create standards and processes for motivating employees to deliver services that exceed resident expectations. Are there any changes you would like to make to this goal?
Not for the goal.
Okay, on to the next objective for organizational excellence. Number one, embolden staff to be professional, responsive, and courteous to the citizens of the community. Cross-train staff and evaluate succession planning for each position. Number three, budget appropriately for staff to receive training and credentialing for their respective positions. Number four, provide competitive compensation and benefit packages to attract and retain high-quality staff. Number five, review and revise employee handbook to unambiguously communicate expectations to town staff. Are there any changes you would like to make to this?
For number one, let's see, so staff to be professional, responsive, courteous. I would also add on there accessible and consistent. For number five, review and revise employee handbook, and maybe we could add the council handbook that I know you did send me. I'm still working on, obviously giving my suggestions on that, but if we could complete that, that would be great, and we could throw that in there, number five as well. The next one, it's not necessarily adjusting any of these five, maybe adding an additional one in which we're saying that we're gonna modernize our internal and external public-facing processes. I think that I've heard, for a while now, from different residents, the process for permits and everything else obviously has been a headache. We've done things to try to improve it. Obviously, we're hearing those issues. So, maybe we could work on putting something on the website to, again, facilitate those processes, or even just to give the people an idea. Now, for number four, I think we're doing number four extremely well. Obviously, we're on top of the salaries and benefits and, ensuring that our staff is well taken care of. Something that is not mentioned, I think, is the career development. I know training is one thing to do your job, but then also maybe add some type of career development. That goes along the lines of retaining staff members if they're more invested, and then also if they know that the town is invested in them as well for the long term, not necessarily for the short term. Maybe we could add an additional line in regards to improving our technology and communications. This has been brought up several times, whether there's not enough communication or just the stuff that the town puts out is not visible enough. So maybe something along the lines of adding those things. We could take it a step further with defining what the customer service standards are, not only to the staff members, but then also to the residents, so they could see, that we're looking at the entire customer service arena, not just necessarily, certain things like mentioned in number one. So in other words, we could have a more detailed customer service standards section. One thing that none of these goals and objectives mention is performance metrics. usually goals, you have to kind of quantify them. It's easier if you quantify them, obviously, because now you could hold someone accountable if you're not meeting those expectations. I don't know if you want to add something in regards to performance metrics, or just quantify some of these things. I don't have any specific examples, but just, you know, throwing that out there, that is something that we could potentially add. And obviously, performance metrics is more necessarily for us, you know, staff. Maybe a survey of, I don't know, some sort of, you know, how satisfied are you with the staff or the processes, and people go on there and, you know, put, you know, 1 through 5, 5 best experience, 1 none, and then we have a way of tracking it. So I don't know if we want to add something like that to it. That's all I got for this section.
That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. I think that's it. It's, double check. Yep. Anybody else got something they want to talk about?
Of course,
All
I
right.
have something.
Go ahead.
Question for you, Paul. There was an invitation to discuss, like, the downtown businesses, to have their input in regards to the vision improvements. Are you able to elaborate on that, I guess? Like, what is that about, I guess?
I just wanted to visit with the businesses and kind of talk about what that would look like. Feel like what they would like to see.
Is that just the currently established ones? I know there's obviously one that I think the coffee place, not the new coffee place, the other one, the lounge one that is on the corner. Is that one included as well?
I'm not sure. Iman reached out to all of them. I'll have to look to see which ones we did. Just mainly trying to get the main principal ones that didn't want to, mainly just talking about more focus on infrastructure and things along that line. Kind of overall visions related to codes. You know, as do we need to address our codes related things along that line.
Does that also, I guess, include the vacant, where Green Mountain Pizza was, and then the other restaurant was there? Like,
I just want to talk to some local business owners together as a group to kind of see what they could see from codes and also just from aesthetics of what can be done, and just from the ones that have been there for a while or working on it, and what they would like. I'm not just saying this is a only meeting, it's a start of a meeting, and there's just because I know there's a lot of empty lots out there, things along that line, and just kind of want to get an overall vision.
is there a timeline as to when, I guess, you'll have all that put together, all the feedback?
Not necessarily. I think it's going to kind of be a multiple conversations. It's a conversation to start a conversation. So, I mean, I don't anticipate coming back to council right away with it. I anticipate kind of taking the information in and kind of researching, doing some research, and visiting with them some more, and hopefully have the group come together once we kind of get a plan and bring it before council, if there is a plan.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, but I was just talking about stuff that's on the agenda. Any more conversation on that? Now, they bring that stuff to the council meeting.
I'm sure it's going to be long enough, but sure.
But any more stuff on the stuff that we went through and on the agenda tonight? All right, yeah, just bring that and be more than happy to talk about it then in your time. All right, I make a motion to adjourn. Need a second?
Second.
All say aye. Aye. Against say nay. There you go. Thank you for coming. Hey, and great job on the microphone.